Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Hey, I'm Ted Jenkin. I'm one of your co-hosts, sitting here with my co-host Chris Hanks, and we're sitting here with our guest today, who's the co-founder of Honeysuckle Gelato, Wes Jones, and we're sitting here with Rusty from the KSU Entrepreneurship Program. You can always catch a replay of the entire podcast that we just did on shrimptankpodcast.com, where you can hear some great information from Wes, not only about running a business, but especially if you're thinking about getting into the food business. Specifically, they're in the gelato business, but any type of food business, I think there's some fabulous information that you're going to get. And Wes, we talked about a lot of stuff on the show today, but one question I didn't get to ask during the show was, do you think it's a good idea if somebody's thinking about starting a business or open up a bakery or craft beer or a gelato shop, is it a good idea to have a business plan?
Personally, I think it is. I think it helps you, if you can get your ideas down on paper and really think through what you're doing, it makes you, kind of criticize your ideas a little more, look at the viability of your business. And if you're not going to put it down on paper, you're probably not going to do as much research.
And how about a pro forma, like where you're just literally looking at some of the numbers? I know they're guesstimates to a certain extent. I
found it helpful. I found that the first time I did a pro forma, it was way off, but I thought it was a great exercise. I thought it was a very useful exercise. And the second time, as we looked to open our retail store, I felt much more comfortable doing it, and I think I was a lot better at it. But I think anytime you can take the time to put things down on paper, it allows you to really sift through your ideas and hone your ideas and make sure what you're doing makes sense to you, if nothing else.
Well, Rusty, this is exciting for me because, you're one of the first students I met at Kennesaw State University, and getting to do this with you has been a lot of fun for me. And so I guess the question I have for you is, what's your biggest takeaway, having been a student of the Entrepreneurship Center, your biggest takeaway or something that'll stay with you as you move on to your career and to your business?
Well, for me, for one, it's been an honor to be there from the beginning, and it's been so much fun. But that's such a hard question because every single class you learn something new. But the main thing is that you don't need to worry so much about the nuts and bolts or the paperwork or any of the technical things. It's more of a mindset. If you actually really do love what you're doing and all, then you can make literally anything work as a business.
Yeah, it's wonderful how top-line revenue will make a lot of all those other worries go away. Wes, when I was listening today during the podcast, you said a bunch of interesting things, but one of the things I thought I gleaned from what you were saying is this notion of failing fast. You talked a little bit about the food truck, and you did it for a little bit, and then you moved on. Is it a good idea? I mean, a lot of business owners are afraid of failure. Is it a good idea to have that fail-fast mentality?
Sure. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I do. I mean, I think one of my favorite books is The Lean Startup, and that really introduced me to the idea of pivoting and understanding that, you can come to market with, what the author calls a minimum viable product and look at that and say, okay, this is what I'm going to introduce, but I know I might need to change this, early and often to get it right. So I think failure is great in the sense that you're getting real feedback.
This is this idea that some people try to bring an A product to market when, in fact, sometimes it's better to bring a C product to market.
Absolutely.
Get it to market first.
And that doesn't mean bringing just some junk to the market. It's got to be well thought out. But, with the understanding that once you bring it to market, if it's not right, you can still fix it. And some people would look at that as a failure, as like, oh, I didn't do the right thing this first time, and that's fine. I mean, I think understanding that that's fine and knowing that those are teachable moments and that gives you the opportunity to grow and create that perfect product or service or anything you're looking for is still out there, and that's not at all a bad thing.
So how do you move from being the doer of the thing that you do to the owner of the thing that you do? From making gelato, serving gelato, to actually owning and scaling a business that happens to make its money through gelato?
When we get there, I'll let you know. I was scooping gelato last night, so I think it's time and patience and understanding how you want to grow your business and making sure you're taking the time and setting the resources aside to to make that happen. And not just, like I said, I learned a very valuable lesson staying in the food truck game a little too long, because we spent so much time doing that. And once we understood that, don't get bogged down in the day-to-day, you can find team members that can do this. You can bring team members on that can help you be more successful, and understanding as a first-time business owner that every time you're spending money is not always a bad thing. If you're doing it for a purpose and you see that there's going to be an end result that's more beneficial to where you are now.
So for folks that are watching the post-show wrap-up today here on the ShrimpTankPodcast.com, how can more people learn about Honeysuckle Gelato or try some of your awesome stuff?
Sure. Visit our website, honeysucklegelato.com, and come see us at Pond City Market. We opened our retail store in September, and we're just having a blast over there, and would love to see you come join us.
Well, we heard today on the show that for sure you have to try the sea salt caramel. That is the flavor that rocks it, but how can it not? Sea salt caramel, it just cannot be a bad thing. Thanks, Wes, for coming on the program today. Thanks, Rusty, for joining us on the program. You can hear an entire replay of Wes's podcast on ShrimpTankPodcast.com, and thanks for joining us on the Shrimp Tank.